It's been a long road, but we're finally here as the Chicago Bears take on the Houston Texans today, and it's game day in the Hall of Fame game. We're going to talk about the players to look out for. What are some things that I'm looking forward to see in this game, even with the starters sitting out? We're going to get into all that plus more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So I'm going to talk to you guys about kind of my expectations, things to look out for in the Bears' first preseason game, in that Hall of Fame game. We're going to get into that. But before we get into that, somebody almost brought out Petty Roosevelt, and that was because Justin Fields reportedly told his teammates that they needed to clean out their locker room, and Amani Toomer decided to say this.
NFL locker rooms are still male-dominated, testosterone-laden, type A places where it really is Lord of the Flies. And this is just part of the growing up period for a quarterback who wants to be a great leader one day.
He's Russell Wilson 2.0.
Uh-oh.
This is not going to go over well.
Uh-oh.
If you came in the locker room, I've been in this locker room for 8 years, like you said. And some rookie's going to come in who hasn't played one snap.
Right.
Talking, we're wearing the fingernail polish. Now he's going to come in here and tell me, who've been here, who've been through the struggle, that I need to clean up? No, how about rookie? How about you clean up after me?
Right.
How about that? Don't give me this crap. I don't like it at all. I feel like rookies should earn their respect.
Sure.
Just because you got drafted number one doesn't mean nothing to me because I don't even know if you're good.
But I think he's trying to be, he may have even said it somewhat, tongue-in-cheek, but I think he's trying to be a leader. He's trying to be that guy. Now,
stop it.
I get it.
Stop. Just play the game. Prove to me that you're really here to be a star. Prove to me you're really trying to make this team better. Don't sit up here and talk about trash around the locker room. Yeah. Come on, man, please.
Now,
doing too much.
I would say this. Great leadership would be he just cleans the locker room up and says nothing. But here's the problem. I ain't your mama. I ain't cleaning up after you. Have some respect.
Now, make no mistake about it. I understand the thought process of, hey, we've been here. Who are you to come in and tell us whatever? I understand that. But then to go to the thing that people so oftenly try to go to with Caleb Williams, talk about painting nails, all this. Guess what? Even with those painted nails, he's going to probably accomplish more than you have ever had in your career, period. And that's the thing. People get so caught up in everything else. Guess what, though? Even more so than the painted nails, the people in the locker room respect Caleb Williams because you know what? He's not about painted nails or not, or whether he carries a pink phone or whatever else it is. It's because the simple fact is Caleb Williams has come into this camp and has done everything to not only improve himself, but to have the focus on getting this team to being a winning football team. More so than the dumbass narrative, worried about what he does with his nails or not, worried about all that dumb shit. Caleb Williams has come in. He's improved. He's dealt with his ups and downs. He's learned his teammates, right? Took time out of his, no, I don't want to say it like that, but he's put forth the effort to get to know his teammates on a personal level, sitting down with those guys, talking to those guys, asking them how he can improve, doing the things that a leader needs to do. You know what? You're too worried about the dumb shit. That's just like the person who sits and stays at a job for 10 years and think that just because they're tenured and been there 10 years that they deserve something. Guess what? A lot of those people get passed up by the new young guy who comes in, who's willing to learn, put in the effort, put in the work, while you're sitting there like a curmudgeon and worried about the wrong shit. Caleb Williams has plenty of things to criticize and critique about his game. Make no mistake about it. But you're not even in that Bears locker room. How about this? Instead of talking about what you would have done, you worry about and focus on how the players in this building, in the Chicago Bears building, have reacted to Caleb Williams. And every one of them has appreciated the leadership that Caleb Williams showed. You're worried about Caleb Williams telling people that they should have cleaned their locker when you didn't. Did you think about the fact how he stood up to a defender after his teammate, for his teammate? Did you think about that? Is that something that we put to the side? As a leader, as a quarterback, as a man, that you stand up and you get into the face of a defender? Come on. What you're trying to paint Caleb Williams as is bullshit. I'm not worried. It's fine to sit there and say, well, Caleb maybe shouldn't have said that to his teammates, even if that's how you feel. But to try to attack the man's character when he's done nothing but show his focus and desire is on winning and winning football games and improving himself to do everything in his power to get that team to it. Will he be successful? That's a story for another day. We'll end up seeing what happens there. But Caleb Williams, for the way that he sacrificed, try to learn his teammates and all that, and go through this training camp wanting everything so that he can grow as a quarterback, so he can understand the system, so that he can understand the tendencies of his players, that a player like Tyler Scott that people thought was on the outskirts, now is one of the shining stars of training camp because of his chemistry with Caleb Williams and his own work for sure. Shut the fuck up. This is really what it comes down to. If it's not about the things on the football field, shut the fuck up. But that's my thought process. You guys can let me know how you guys feel on that down below. I had to add this into the recording. It's going to be a bit of a transition. We're going to get into the topic that we came here to talk about now, and that's the Bears preseason, the Hall of Fame game, the Bears' first preseason game, and who to look out for. Of course, it is game day, and the Chicago Bears are taking on the Houston Texans today. And I know everybody's kind of excited about this game, right? To see what this game's going to be, even with the announcement that most of the starters and Caleb Williams will be sitting in this game. There's still a lot to look out for in this game. And again, like I kind of said with training camp, it's about the process, not necessarily just the result in some of these cases. And so what are we looking for with this? It's first is going to be how well does the team look, right? Like as far as understanding the system, does it still look like we're getting some kinks out in some areas? What does that look like that we're really looking for on both the offense and defensive side of the ball? Now, while we do have a new defensive coordinator, we know that Matt Eberflus is still doing the defensive play calling. So that leaves what it said there, right? But I think ultimately we're still looking to see how this team just performs, what it kind of looks like, and just kind of overall, we're looking to see what the schemes look like for both the offense and defensive coordinator. We know what they've done in the past, right? We know what Shane Waldron has done in the past. You could definitely take a look at or kind of project what his scheme may look like in that case, but it's more than that at this point, right? We're looking to see how he's going to utilize these players on this roster. Even with some of the starters sitting down, there's still enough to try to get and understand what type of methodology and things that we're looking from when it comes down to. So overall, yeah, we're going to be missing Caleb Williams. DJ Moore may not play, Jalen Johnson, those type of players. But, when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, we're looking at what we're trying to do, right? What are the run schemes that we're running, right? We know the pass everybody's going to be looking at with all the wide receivers that we have here and things like that. But overall, I want to see what type of run pass balance that we have in this team, right? Because shaping from last I've heard, both Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson could take some snaps in this game. So, really looking at how that balance works out. And overall, too, like who comes out in that battle, right? Like who gets more runs on the day, right? So it's really Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson are very much so battling it out for their running back 2 position. And while there are a lot of Bears fans that have the player that they think should come out and top on that battle, it just means at the end of the day, like with DeAndre Swift being the number 1 there, clearly you're looking to see who's going to emerge themselves and who kind of maybe Shane Waldron is favoring in that system to do that. So we'll see what happens there. There's a history of Ryan Poles not really running to pay running backs, even though he just paid DeAndre Swift. But you can't really see him doing that. So Khalil Herbert is kind of not fighting for his life. I think he's still going to be a part of the offense either way, right? But he could very well be passed up by Roschon Johnson. So on that offensive side of the ball, looking at how those running backs perform, but then also who steps up in that wide receiver game. Bayless Jones is going to get a little bit more opportunities as well with the starting wide receivers sitting down, as well as Tyler Scott. We've heard so much really good things about Tyler Scott so far. He's really kind of been the breakout star or breakout candidate, him and Javon Dexter so far in training camp. So to see what Tyler Scott looks like as well, given more opportunity in this preseason, him and Tyson Bagent, that's going to be a big part as well. So definitely looking out for that. But then on the defensive side of the ball, we're trying to see what has changed on the defensive scheme while Matt Eberflus is still calling the defense there. Eric Washington, the balance that he brings, right? As far as he's going to bring some of his own thought process on it, but I told you guys before, he's somebody who heavily rotates that defensive line all around. We've already seen it in training camp using Austin Booker and Dominique Robinson, 2 edges in the interior defensive line to see what they can bring there. And they're going to have an opportunity as well. So seeing kind of those defensive schemes, what are we doing as far as, the zone and how many times do we go into man, things like that, because we still got some really talented members of that secondary as well, even with the starters sitting. Terrell Smith, can't wait to see him. Greg Stroman Jr., right? These are guys that, Quindell Johnson, these are guys that are really going to get more opportunity in a game like this. So to really see how they're performing and grasping this defensive system and schemes and things like that, are going to be really fun to see as well. But the thing that I'm looking for most of all is the offensive line. And the reason why is that the offensive line is one of the biggest question marks that we have. Not to say that the offensive line should necessarily be terrible or bad. This is an offensive line that's given up 105 at least sacks over the last 2 years, right, combined. But there's still questions. We still haven't seen Tevin Jenkins be able to stay healthy. Nate Davis has had his issues. Braxton Jones has dealt with some issues of injury-wise and things like that. And so a lot of the depth pieces, right, the Kieran Amagajes, if he's healthy to go, the Jake Currans, the Matt Pryors, those guys, the J. Tyree Carters, the Larry Borms, they're going to get a lot of opportunity in this preseason game to show what they can bring, as well as Doug Kramer. And so, we're hoping that they're going to be able to bring enough, but we're still looking at it as well. The Hall of Fame game, Larry Borum, J. Tyree Carter, Coleman Shelton, Doug Kramer, these all guys are going to play a lot. And so I don't think we've gotten word if Kieran's listed as out, but we'll see. But over the preseason, we're going to get a lot of look at those guys as well. And this offensive line could be one of the biggest question marks and black eyes for the Chicago Bears team. Could be. Not necessarily saying that it will, but it very well could be on that offensive line. So we really want to see what it's going to look like for this offensive line and how well they perform even in a preseason game, because they've been getting reportedly cooked by our defense pretty regularly in training camp. Now you get to look at an opposing team's defense, and we get to see what's going to happen. Staying in the trenches, the defensive line, the pass rushers, right? I already mentioned Austin Booker, Dominique Robinson, Eric Washington liking to rotate that defensive line. We still don't know for sure who's going to step up and be that edge, the opposite side of Montez Sweat, or if the Bears are going to go out and get a veteran. And I think this game may go a long way to see how confident they are in the Jacob Martins, in the Austin Bookers, in the Dominique Robinsons, right? DeMarcus Walker, I think they're confident in, but they want to maintain that flexibility to use him inside and out. Zach Pickens is another one in that trench who's going to get a big opportunity. Keith Randolph Jr., as well as an undrafted free agent. What can he bring to this team? So there are a lot of things and storylines to look at coming into this game that I think are important, and not just narrative-based pieces, but are important to really take a look at. So, we got players that are on the roster bubble. And when you look at those players, they really have to try to perform in these games as well. Every snap matters for those guys. So when you look at some of the players that are right now on the bubble for the Chicago Bears, I think Velus Jones Jr. is definitely one that you have to put up there. 26 career games he's played so far, 281 yards from scrimmage, 2 offensive touchdowns that he's had in that. As a return specialist, he's averaged 27.4 yards per kickoff return per 38 returns. So those numbers aren't bad enough, but we know certain things and other things that he has to work on. And so with Velus Jones, as well as him coming up, towards the end of his rookie deal, he definitely has to perform. While you have young players as well as Ian Willard and these other players that are really ready to step up, we got to hope that that's going to be the case. Larry Borum is a player that's definitely on the roster bubble as well for the Bears. I think when you look at it, like I said, mainly the business aspect, right? As a depth piece, Larry Borum is pretty much solid, right? Is he perfect? No, but he's a depth piece. But that being 25 years old, 23 starts in his 3-year career, having the cap hit of over $3 million, the Bears can save $3 million because his cap hit, if he's waived, is only $30,000. Listen, the Bears may very well look to keep him. Now, he did rank 74th out of 81 qualified tackles in the NFL last year, according to Pro Football Focus. So, again, there are things that could be said to keep him, but I think the business aspect may push it in a different direction. 25 pressures on 225 pass blocking attempts just isn't good. It's not good. So, we'll see what happens with that one, but Larry Borum is definitely a player as well that I think is on the bubble. And then Brett Rypien. And I don't think we'll know about Brett Rypien or not. Like Austin Reed, Tyson Bagent, I don't know if the Bears feel comfortable keeping both those guys as your backup quarterbacks, but they very well may. And if not, it's Austin Reed who may be on that bubble. Next up, Reddy Stewart, the cornerback here. Now, make no mistake about it. We've heard really good things about Reddy Stewart, especially as a UDFA and what he's done in training camp so far. But he's at one of our deepest positions at that cornerback position. And unless he's going to be able to be used on special teams, it may just come down to the Bears not having a roster spot for him. But Reddy Stewart is a good guy. Make no mistake about it. And he may end up staying on that practice squad. But Reddy Stewart is another guy that you got to look at to try to make a splash during this preseason to really try to solidify himself a spot on this roster. So we'll see what happens when it comes down to that. And when you look at it last year, to compare Reddy Stewart to example for Tyson Bagent. Tyson Bagent came into last year in the training camp, the number 4 quarterback on the depth chart, and ended up going all the way up to the backup quarterback. Now, I'm not saying that Reddy Stewart's going to pass up that many players, but I'm just saying that it can go from looking bleak to end up being somebody that you end up keeping around on your roster. And so it's really up to Reddy Stewart to perform that. He's a 2-time first all Sun Belt selection in his collegiate time. So this is a guy who does have talent. And I was really excited when the Bears did sign him as an undrafted rookie, but he's still a guy that you got to look at and say he has to really earn his spot. And so, and there's a lot to say that. So, when you look at specific players as well that you really want to kind of look to see what they're going to bring, I'm excited to see Tyson Bagent get a start. I'm not going to lie. Not to say that he's I'm not ghosted Judah. There's no chance of him passing up Caleb Williams to be the starting quarterback, but I'm still interested to see how Tyson Bagent grew his game because, as I've said many times before, if you can have a backup quarterback that understands your system and that can stand in and at least be a game manager, that's what every NFL team wants behind their QB1. And Tyson Bagent definitely has the chance to be that. I'll say this, Austin Reed, coming from a similar system to Shane Waldron's in college, also has the chance to be that. And that may be where both guys end up sticking around. But I'm excited to see what chemistry Tyler Scott and Tyson Bagent can put together because when you look at the offense, with the starters sitting down, it comes down to Tyson Bagent, Tyler Scott, Roshan, Khalil Herbert. I don't know if we see any of Gerald Everett out there. We may, right? But it comes down to seeing a little bit of those guys. So I'm excited to see them. Bayless is going to get a lot of opportunity in this one as well. But really, Austin Booker. Austin Booker is probably the player in this that I'm really looking forward to the most in seeing what he can bring in this preseason game because he's going to get a lot of opportunities as long as he's healthy. And so him and Keith Randolph are two players that I know Austin Booker was drafted. He's going to be on this roster, but those are two guys that I just look at and say, these are definitely two people who can be the future of your defensive line. If Austin Booker, those Danielle Hunter comparisons, as far as him being somebody who's kind of unproven and untested and very, very raw, that edge, but has all the talent that people are ready to see, I think that there's a lot to be said about him potentially being there. And so, Austin Booker is somebody that I am extremely excited to see, him and Keith Randolph, because I think that these are two guys that we may look back and say, hey, these will end up being steals in their respective areas for the Chicago Bears. There's a reason the Bears traded back into the draft to get Austin Booker. And we know that Ryan Poles, if he sees and thinks that there's some potential in you, he's going to go out there and get you. He was willing to give up a pick to do that because of the upside that Austin Booker has. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to hit that, but it does mean that it's there. So I'm excited to see how much of that can be uncovered here with the Chicago Bears just in this season. Does he start showing flashes that then he builds off on going into next offseason, right? Things like that. Is he working on the size? Things. He's still very strong, right? C-Dub talks a lot about him needing to put on weight, but Austin Booker is he looks very strong and ready. And so, him and Keith Randolph, and I can't say enough about Keith Randolph. I think if it wasn't for injury concerns around Keith Randolph, he would have definitely been drafted probably at least in the 6th round, probably the 5th round. And, to be able to get somebody in here like him who has the collegiate career that he's had, right? Not amazing. It's not like it was all world or anything like that, but he did have a great, solid collegiate career. And you see the potential in what he can bring as a run disruptor and somebody who can get to the quarterback. And just with that big body, that strength and combination of speed that he has, those are two guys I'm really the most excited to see on that defensive side of the ball. But then you got your players that are really still trying to earn their spots, right? That we've heard some things, but we still don't know quite what it's going to be like. Ian Willer, especially in that running back room, another player that would have to, I think, show out on special teams if he ends up wanting to make the team. But you have a player in Ian Willer that we've heard that Bears have used him. In the passing game, he's solid in that, right? He's solid in the run game, especially if you're looking at a third running back. And then when you look at him as a return specialist as well, Ian Willer has a lot of room to grow and to work with, right? When you look at Travis Homer, he can definitely pass him up, but we'll see what happens there. Ian Willer may end up being somebody who spends a year on the practice squad unless another team picks him up, but I am excited to see what he can bring as well. Now, he did suffer an injury. I don't know for sure if he's playing in today's preseason game, but he is another guy that I would be lying if I said I wasn't excited to see what he can bring here. Stephen Carlson is another one who's that depth tight end in that. We brought back Mercedes Lewis, so I think that may end up pushing him out of the team because we have our 3 tight ends at that point in Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, and Mercedes Lewis, who's the veteran who you just know is going to be able to perform, especially in the pass blocking game. But Stephen Carlson is somebody who, we'll see what he can bring. If he can bring some value as a blocker and things like that, he can end up sticking around on this team. Another guy that I'm really high on is Michael Baskerville. But when it comes down to it, he's the fifth linebacker. I think Noah Sewell's probably still ahead of him on the depth chart. But this is another guy who came from LSU. We got him undrafted. He's going into his second year now. This is still a guy who's shown some moments on special teams. But with the Bears being as deep as what they are in the linebacker spot, they may just not have the space for Micah Baskerville. And so we'll see what happens with Micah there as well. Quindell Johnson, I know I mentioned him a little bit earlier as well. The Bears have a lot of safety. And Kevin Byard, Jaquan Brisker, probably not playing in this. Elijah Hicks, Jonathan Owens, who we know is not here. He's supporting his wife over in the Olympics. So Quindell Johnson's going to get an opportunity to show what he can bring. He may end up just being a camp body, but to see what he can bring in that secondary, a secondary that has a lot of expectations for the Chicago Bears team, I think it's something that he can bring. And I'm excited to see what he does bring to this team, I should say. And if he ends up being somebody that ends up performing well for the Chicago Bears. So, we'll see what happens then. Overall, like I said, don't be too down that the starters aren't playing. I understand why everybody is how I'm down. I would love to see Caleb Williams playing in this game. But ultimately, the Bears made their decision. They're trying to safeguard the players that their future quarterback. And we just got to respect that, right? And so overall, this is just the Hall of Fame game, a game where the Bears aren't the first one to sit starters in a game like this, right? So the excitement around the Bears offseason and things, yes, it does bring a different level of excitement, a different level of desire to want to see your team. But, it's going to be fun times. We're going to be here live during the game, so make sure you guys stay tuned in for that. This is going to be a fun game as well at the Hall of Fame game. And so we'll be live on the channel, both during the game and post-game shows, so make sure you guys stay tuned in there. You guys can follow the show at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down, y'all. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.